Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to our 18th podcast.
I'm Iris.
I'm Kristin. We're coming at you from the Cashmere Goat in Camden, Maine. Just wanted to pop in and say hi. And I don't know, do you have something to knit today?
I do. I am working on the Soul Warmer cowl. This is our knit along for March. This is a beautiful sampler style cowl by Justina Lorkowska, and we did a podcast where we introduced the cowl, and I'll link it down below so you can hear all about it. But it's a perfect use of mini skeins. I've chosen kind of what I'm thinking of as my like confectionery or something. Like these colors reference for me a childhood candy that was sort of like minty.
Was it like Necco wafers?
It wasn't. It was these. But that's good because there's
I'm
definitely
a Necco wafer vibe at the top.
You could totally get a Necco wafer vibe. I was kind of also thinking about these ones that were sort of shaped like large Hershey Kiss style shape, but they were pastel and they had kind of nonpareils at the bottom, but they were minty, kind of a creamy minty melt away kind of a thing. And so, yeah, Necco wafers, but anyway, confectionery palette for me.
Now I'm really curious about
we
that
gotta
candy.
Do a little
What
research
is that candy?
later today. So we're really enjoying this. I, of course, started a little early, so that's why I'm like ahead, even though this is technically our kickoff week.
Yes.
But it's like people have just jumped into this with both feet, and even though it was just our in-person kickoff was Sunday and we're having our Zoom kickoff tomorrow, there were so many people who were already planning their second one.
This is a little different than the shift that we did last year that required a lot more thought. You'd think this might be harder because there's a little bit of lace, but it's a little bit. And if you follow the tips in the newsletter,
read the emails. So many knitters were like, I got so messed up on that lace part.
Right.
And I was like, well, did you consider using markers? Because I wrote about that in the email. Oh, and then I started using markers because somebody, and I was like, great, good, that's how we do it.
Yep. And so, yeah, if you haven't joined yet, there's still plenty of time to join. It's never too late.
And I will say that the lace, don't be intimidated because it is beginner friendly. You probably already know how to knit two together and slip, knit, and yarn over.
Yeah.
And that's what it really is. And the markers just sort of help ground you. And there's some nice tips in the email.
And if that sounds intimidating and you don't want to do even that little bit of lace, you can make it plain stockinette.
Sure.
You don't have to do any of the patterns, or if you like one or don't like one, you can switch them out.
Totally.
And I am not working on one, sadly, because I am taking a little knitting break. My hands and wrists have demanded that of me, so I am working on that. It's very weird not to knit. I find myself, like when I get home at night, I'm like, what do I do? Like when I sit down on the couch and watch TV, or like, what do I do? And so
you organize your spices.
I did last night.
Super great.
So and this weekend I had a few days off and I cleaned, which it wasn't that actually great for my wrist either, but it's cleaner at my house, so
that's good.
You have a lot more time when you stop knitting, it turns out.
Don't tell them that.
Oh, sorry. Knitting takes hardly any time at all. So Iris is going to make another one as a shop sample, and I get to pick out the colors. And so I am thinking, so we have On the Round yarns, which we've had for a long time. We haven't had their mini skeins in the abundance that we do now, so we have a lot of options there. But this past week we received these Fino colorways from Manos del Uruguay, and so I'm thinking this one with this of the cottage fingering. That's sort of what I'm thinking. Or Oh, and that one is called, these all have ladies' names. This is Clarissa.
Clarissa.
And this one is Esme.
Esme.
And I just thought this would be super fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then with a cottage fingering, Bubba Boom.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to knit either one.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting to have somebody pick out the yarn for you and just like, yeah,
There
hand
you
me
go.
the yarn.
And
I'll
it's
do it.
not much yarn.
Mhm.
It's really not. So when you finished your section, this section, did you have any left?
Little bit.
A little bit.
Yep. And then, so you're using close to a whole mini skein, but not like every last scrap.
Yeah.
I was a little worried about that,
Yeah,
but
I was wondering about that too. And so this is a whole skein.
that is pretty much a whole skein. And so I think the bottom, so this is my last section, this lace section is my last one before my bottom ribbing. And I think the bottom ribbing is going to be like this, I think it's called Bone in the On the Round cottage fingering, and this light pink. So it will end on a low contrast note. So I'm not sure as I get there, I'll kind of take a look and see if I like that. And if not, I'll just use some other stuff.
Yeah. It is a great stash buster too. A lot of people are using stash and adding a couple of mini skeins.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really fun way to play with color. And the original one is very neutrals, and most of the ones we're seeing are not that neutral.
People are having, I think, some fun getting out of their comfort zone, like me with this, and a couple of other knitters just saying like, well, it just sort of seems fun to try some other colors I wouldn't normally wear in this accessories, which is neat.
And you know, it's not a huge investment in time or money, and so I think people don't feel the commitment that they do with sweater yarn.
And somebody at the Sunday meetup was, I think it was Karen, who said, this is going to be my new go-to travel project. Like, just have one kind of going, because they're also great gifts, which I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah. And it's lightweight and drapey and the perfect sort of thing to wear here much of the year. Because, well, it's supposedly still winter.
Yeah.
But we've had some pretty warm weather here. We're going to have rain again today. Our snow is mostly gone. Some of the lakes have melted.
Some of them didn't even freeze this winter.
It's
We both
so
love
weird.
winter, so
we do.
we're a little sad.
You know, it's part of the cycle. Like spring and summer are great because you have to make it through winter.
Yeah.
And walking in the winter is lovely. And yeah, you don't have to worry about ticks.
No, although I've had just in the past couple
that's what
days,
I mean. Yeah,
you know,
said.
and I was like,
And
on the dog, not me, but.
And when I walked my dog this morning, I definitely thought about ticks, and I was like, okay,
buggers.
What can I do to make this trail a little less tick friendly? So I'm gonna work on that.
I keep looking at my dog's like preventative tick medicine, thinking like, but could I just
Can I just wear this little collar?
Could I just chew this peanut butter flavored chew and have some No.
Turns out it's pretty toxic. Turns out it's poison.
Yeah.
But they supposedly are working on a shot, and they did try to do that years ago, and it didn't work, and somehow they stopped it. But they've been working on it again because it's very prevalent here.
Totally.
I mean, it really is. We both live in the woods and have pets.
And we're not going to stop being outside.
No. So we have to prevent.
Yep.
So, anyways, this is now a tick
little
podcast.
tick rant. We went detoured away, pivoted for a minute. So we thought
it was fun.
It was, and we both have dogs, and we think about our dogs a lot.
All the time.
They're good girls. We thought it'd be fun to kind of share a little bit of like, how did we become knitters? Because people sometimes ask about that and are curious. And Kristin told me a really good story the other day that I was like, oh, our podcast people might like to hear that too. So
well, and it's not necessarily a knitting origin story. It's more of my love of sweaters started at a very young age. My father was from Norway, and my uncle still lived over there and then lived in Iceland for years too. And so when he would come visit, he would bring us different stuff. And I was the youngest of a large family, and he would he would bring sweaters sometimes, and he brought us from Iceland. He brought me and my sister Icelandic cardigans when we were probably young teens. Yeah. And it was pretty scratchy wool. And my sister rejected hers pretty quickly because, she loved it, but she didn't really wear it much because she couldn't stand the itch. And mine, I was like, just give me a turtleneck, I'm good.
I love that.
I loved it. And
do you remember the colors?
Yeah, it was actually a neutral. It was mine was, I think, browns and cream, and my sister's was blacks and grays and cream.
Love those natural.
Yeah, it was very much a traditional Icelandic sweater. Now gone. It got, the moths got it or something got it. It was too small anyways, but I still had it up until a few years ago. And then, but the sweater story I told her was, one Christmas, I think I was 11. I think I must have been 11. And I asked for an Aran sweater for Christmas. Like, that's all I really wanted for Christmas was like a traditional Irish cream-colored sweater. And that's what I got. And man, I loved that sweater. I loved it. So I was just thinking about what a weird present for an 11-year-old to ask for. And that, like, I really loved sweaters. I have a love of sweaters. And so...
From way back.
Yeah, from way back. And, you don't really think about these things. And then I tell him this story, and I was like, wow, yeah, okay.
Maybe also the origin of your love of cream-colored yarn.
Yes, maybe, maybe. It all comes, but you're good at figuring out why I love things. So, yeah, that's my sweater origin story, and there were more sweaters from my uncle, and actually I'm getting a sweater gift tomorrow too. I've had sweaters gifted to me lately, which is amazing, especially since I can't knit right now. And there's no shade in a store-bought sweater if it's a good one. People seem shocked when they see me wear a store-bought sweater.
Someone was kind of joking, was like, wait, Kristin lets you wear, like, sweaters you didn't make? I'm like, what?
I'm like, yes. No, all of your clothes must be handmade.
in the Cashmere goats. We are very fancy.
We're not big about rules like that here. It's not. You usually do have a handmade item on. I try to, but I don't always.
No. When did you learn to knit?
My mom taught me when I was 8, and I do still have that piece of knitting somewhere, never finished. a sign of things to come. But it was like a scarf.
Yeah.
And it was made out of just scraps of her yarn.
Cool.
And so it's all different colors. And I kept it, which is also kind of funny. And I only have one, it's on one needle. The other needle's long gone.
Yeah.
I should try to unearth it.
And you could have it as a little wall hanging.
I know, I thought that like my first knitting. It's pretty cute.
That's awesome.
So I didn't knit a lot though. I learned to knit, but I didn't, I would off and on work on that. But I didn't knit much until I was in my 20s. So what's your knitting origin story?
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking about your first knitting, I don't have a first knitted piece, but my dad, maybe last year, sent me a photograph of a piece of weaving that I think I made on like a cardboard loom that you would do in like in craft class. And it was, very traditional. Like I was figuring out tension, and so it was sort of like this shape. And I think he was a real good archivist. So there was like a date. I think it was from when I was 6 or something.
Wow.
So that was weaving. I learned to knit from my stepmom.
Oh, nice.
And she is a customer here at the store,
That's so awesome.
which is cool. And she always likes to say now, like, the student has become the master. And I help her, I love helping her pick out new projects. And she made the Wind Swept boomerang, and she made another one of Alice Smith's the hat, the Pac-Monadnock hat
Mhm,
recently. But so she taught me, and I was probably 7 or 8ish, and she probably learned from her mom or her meme. And I just kind of remember sitting next to her. I made a lot of like little tiny dolly blankets. Maybe I started on a
Nice.
scarf, but I definitely remember, you know, again, the sort of misshapen edges as you're sort
Oh,
of
yeah.
inadvertently
Adding
increasing
and
or
decreasing.
decreasing, dropping a stitch. So I had a lot of little dolly blankets and rugs for my dollhouse, and
Wow, you had finished objects.
little ones.
But you
so-
finished them.
Yeah.
Go you.
Or maybe I just cast off when I was bored.
Mhm,
Could have happened. And then my mom actually got back into knitting too, and we lived in Western Massachusetts,
Mhm.
and there's like a giant yarn store out there that you may have heard about. And when I knew it, it was a tiny yarn store
interesting.
in a Victorian house right in
yeah.
downtown Amherst, and it was little rooms with yarn. And I went there with my mom, and she was wanting to get back into knitting. I think it was her aunt who taught her, and she ended up with one of those like candied stocking kits, the classic, the classic.
They still make those.
And so she made that for my brother. And I don't know that I like did much. I don't really remember knitting myself in that time, but when I really got into it was in college. One of the dorm kind of adult people associated with our dorm was a knitter and was doing this like, you know, hats for humanity or something like that, where she was like, I'll teach anybody who wants to learn how to knit a hat, and I have the yarn and I'll give you the stuff. So
there you go.
So it was a really cool, because I don't think I'd ever really made anything beyond flat items, and so the
Little doll blankets
and maybe scarves. And so it was cool because she had a pretty basic pattern, and I got introduced to color work pretty quickly.
Yep. Wow.
Ear flaps.
Nice.
But she was great, and we would just sort of show up, I don't know, on a certain evening and get knitting. So we're making kid hats, and then I branched out into adult hats.
That's awesome.
So that was
That's
kind of my
great.
re-entry back into knitting. And then when my kids were little, I started knitting more, and
Yeah.
it was nice to have something to do when they were little.
Yeah.
And,
You can complete a row and it's done.
Yep.
Which is a good feeling.
mm-hmm.
Anytime when you feel like you can't get everything done.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about my grandparents. Both of my grandmothers knit. My grandmother from Norway obviously knit, because all Norwegians knit, I think. I think it's written in their constitution.
Yeah, you just like come out of the womb and at
Knitting.
the hospital you got your first pair of knitting needles maybe.
So, and my other grandmother knit too, and she made me, I still have that sweater too. She made me a Frank Oker sort of color, mustardy
You were
turtleneck
so
sweater.
hip.
Yeah. Well,
So hip.
maybe.
Yeah. She was hip.
Maybe hit before my time. Nobody realized how cool I was.
As often happens with vanguards of fashion like we are.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
totally. So ridiculous.
Yes.
So ridiculous. But it's interesting to think about it, and how my mom has come up a lot, and you're thinking of your mom and stepmom, and like it's not just a women's craft. It seems like it is these days, but it really, like, it's come up at knitting group too, talking about moms, and it's been interesting, and it's nice. I think she would be like so happy to know that this was my store and this is what I was doing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Be so proud of you.
She would.
And the way that you're like helping inspire next generation, and just like making more sweater knitters with our knit-alongs.
Oh my gosh, the knit-alongs.
It's so fun.
It is. The knit-alongs have sort of really become a anchor theme here lately.
We had a customer who finished a Carbeth and came in so excited to share it. Gorgeous. I think they used ultra alpaca, chunky in that kind of burgundy color. And this person was so excited because she said she never really, like, she always has to alter her clothes. And this was the first time she made something that just fit her, because she knew how to make it really fit her, and it was like
so awesome,
so empowering, and she was just beaming from ear to ear, and that was like, Our hearts were happy.
Yeah, you guys make our hearts happy a lot.
Mhm.
If you've made it this far in the podcast, then you must be a fan. And you can know that we hear from you. We got an amazing email yesterday that I was like, oh my gosh.
Somebody who was ready to bring their sleeping bag to the store and spend the night.
And I did have the thought like, oh, night in the yarn store, slumber party. And I'm like, no, calm down. Is that really a good idea? I don't think so.
Knitting till all hours? I mean, we're all doing that at home.
We could have a knit-a-thon.
Oh, yeah.
For a good cause or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen.
Good. We have a lot of ideas. Ideas are not, as it turns out, a problem for us. They just are a renewable resource.
In a way.
We have to. Well, the problem is that we just have to keep reeling ourselves back in a little bit.
I had to say no new ideas for a while, and I didn't officially say new ideas can happen,
but they just started creeping in.
But we're trying not to get overwhelmed by them.
Yes.
So no slumber party in the store yet.
We're working on it.
You'll have to let me know if you really want that. The price will be high.
Oh.
The floor is hard. We'd need like cots.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot.
It would be a project. So we can just table that one.
Let's table that one
right
for now. Let me know if you have strong inclination.
So silly. But we get those kind of love notes, and it's really makes such a difference. Small staff, small owned, and to know that it makes a difference for people. And even just like yesterday, a few people that just walked into the shop. Oh my God, I'm in a yarn shop. Yeah. We hear it all the time. My local yarn shop closed, but this is so special. Wow, look at the selection. It's so beautifully curated, and we try.
It's so nice to hear. Thank you for all your feedback. And I feel like there's a million yarn stores out there, so I'm always surprised to hear so many have closed.
But that's like our world.
It is.
Right?
Well, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. Well, I think that's probably...
Yeah, you got to hear a little inside history. But thank you for watching.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll drop some links down below because you can still join the knit along. We're having a blast, and it's going to go on through this month of March, and people are just having so much fun playing with these beautiful yarns. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Happy making.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, should we go? Are we recording?
We are.
Oh.
Yep. Just let it go.
Let's let it go. Okay.